everybody. Hi from Ljubljana. I am very happy to be here, although I would have liked to be here with you for the screening of Béle. I used to be a filmmaker, and fortunately the corona crisis came, and we have to find another way. And I'm really glad that we found this way to have a talk, to have a chat via internet. And I'm going to answer to a few questions that have been answered to me. So I'm Yann-Eryl Mer, former assistant director of Béle Tarrja on the Turning Horse, and previously on The Man from London. And I'm very, very happy to be here and to answer to your questions. Well, this is a long story. It goes back to 2006, so more than 15 years ago. I was still a student. I was a very dedicated film student, trying to discover many different kinds of cinemas. And I went to a cinema in Paris called the MK2 Hautefeuille in the Latin Quarter. And there I saw there was a film that was playing from Béle Tarrja, and that was a 7.5 hour film. I was quite impressed already by the length of the film itself, and I went in, and it was just like a cinematographic shock for me. So I got to get some lessons about him, and then I decided I have to go to Hungary, to meet him, start to learn Hungarian, and very quickly I found myself in Budapest and met him, and he said, we're going to shoot in Corsica in a few months. You're French, you might be much of a help for us. And I said, yes, sure. So I jumped in, and at the time I just spoke a few words of Hungarian. And that was at the time for the shooting of the Man from London, and we worked together for a whole year, full year, and then there was the next film coming. So it was quite natural for me to keep going there and get stuck in Budapest and just make another movie. And that's how I very a little bit of luck, a little bit of will, and that was it. Okay, so it is very different to be an assistant director on Béle Tarrja's film or Jim Jarmusch's film or any other films. Yeah, so every director and every film has its different different needs, and mainly the tasks of an assistant director is to be the link, to be the connection between the crew, the technical team, and the director itself. So it's both on the technical side and on the creative side. And that's very interesting because you get to talk to a lot of people. You get to try to get a symbiosis on the set, try to get everybody work at the same time, same pace, to get the same result at the same time. Of course, some of the departments need so much time to work, the other ones need more little time, but you have to get people to work together. It's like in a restaurant, somebody's cutting the carrots, somebody is cutting is boiling an egg, and so on. But an egg, you have to cook it for 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes. Carrot, it takes you less or more, and then you have to get everybody ready at the same time, so that when we shoot the film, when we shoot the pictures, everything on the set is ready to get the best picture ever. And the task of the assistant director is to get that choreography ready. Of course, if you mentioned Béla, he was the master of the choreography. He was a lot implicated in the the dialogue between the technical crew and himself. Yeah, he would really proactively be on the set and talk directly. Of course, if we talk about the Turin Horse, it was one set, you know, it was just one location, so everybody was packed here in a small little house, and we would even didn't have any idea where to go, you know. We were in the middle of nowhere, so we were just stuck there for a whole day, for months, under bad weather conditions, or even sunshine sometimes, waiting for the bad weather to come. And yeah, so we were also listening to the same music every day, and so we were in sort of spirit that we couldn't get away from. So it was, Béla himself was able to create that kind of choreography and link between all the people. So somehow it was just to also to keep the spirit up, yeah, because they were very long, tough days. Mainly doing a lot of rehearsal, making some long shots, so very tiring. Also it needed a lot of focus, attention. Also dealing with a lot of elements. I will maybe talk about this later. But very, very exciting for sure. Yes, what's it like? Well, actually, when you start working with somebody who is meant to be a giant of cinema, when you work with him on a daily basis, well, of course, you're looking at what he did, what he's still doing, and there's a kind of admiration of what he did, and respect. But on the daily basis, we just work, you know, so you don't even have time to think about that. You just we need to get the wind machines ready there, and we need to take this out of the frame, and we need to be ready in 5 minutes, guys, because the sun's going down. And yeah, so you don't even have time to think, you know. You just do it. Yeah. And the second part of the question, if I just forgot it. Yes, and his directorial vision and perfectionism. Of course, you have to know, Béle Tarrja is really unlike other directors. Béle Tarrja is not doing, his films are not, if you take 1 minute of Béle Tarrja, it's not going to be cut into hundreds of frames. So you've got usually shots that last 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, even 10 sometimes. Could go to 12. Of course, it's the Béla usually says that Kodak is the one that is making the censorship for directors who are still working with film and not with digital cameras, because that's the maximal length you can have on a film. But if he could, he would do more, of course. But yeah, you have to be a perfectionist if you plan to shoot to make long shots, because everything has to be already thought of well before, you know. So of course, there's a full plan of how the camera is going to move, where is the light going to enlight the characters, how the actors are going to move. That's the idea we have before shooting, yeah. But on the set itself, of course, even though the director is a perfectionist, we have to adapt to reality. We have to adapt to the weather conditions. We have to adapt to something technical that's not working on the very day of the shooting, or maybe one wind machine doesn't work anymore, so we have to work with two. We have to find another solution to make a different wind. So we are really also reactive to the moment. So yeah, of course, I can remember some times where Béla was still thinking with his own crew, you know, the cameraman. Okay, is this a good frame, or should we go 2 steps back, 2 steps more closer? Of course, because you cannot have everything written right at the beginning. You can have the frame. Béla would have a wall, with a big screen with every different day. You would shoot one shot. It was one shot a day, generally, and we would rehearse the whole day for that shot, and then pass it the next day. And generally, the idea was very precise. But then, of course, on the moment of the shooting, you can get to some changes, corrections. Exactly. So you're not stuck with a scenario, and of course, the actors also tell you've got a face that you want to see more closer or from further away, and that's also dictated by some body linked, dictated by, I don't know, the tree up there on the hill. So many parameters that are well thought before, but we still have to adapt, you know. And the end of the question was, what the daily workflow looked like. Well, we woke up very early, went very early on the set and left it very late. Not just because we were hard workers and just workaholics, but just because we needed the light of the morning and we needed the light of the evening just before the sun goes up and just before it goes down. What happened with the Turin horse? We had a lot of problems with the weather. We wanted to have a gray sky all the time, and the moment some sun was popping up, we had to wait, and we waited for long times. I mean, we actually sometimes rehearsed under the sun because it was already very sunny, even though we were also already still in winter. It was very sunny, so we would rehearse, and we had to capture those very small slots that we had during the day to be able to shoot with no sun, no direct sun anyhow. So we needed some clouds. So we woke up very early and we rehearsed the whole day. It was really rehearsing. We had two phases. One inside the house. We would actually shoot some shots inside. Sometimes we would go from inside to outside, and sometimes we were just shooting outside. Outside was the wild world with the whole storm and wind and dust and very would I say, it was the enemy. The outside world was the enemy. So we had the cameraman was going out with a Steadicam, and there were 2, 3, 4 people protecting him, so that he wouldn't be bounced out by the wind machines. The wind machines would blow some dust and leaves, and we had also a helicopter above our head. And at the same time, we had to cope with a horse that didn't like it at all. He didn't like it at all. So it was a very, it was like war going outside. We knew we couldn't hear us anymore. With the helicopter, we were talking with walkie-talkies, sorry. And it was really war. And inside it was more something like, I wouldn't say peaceful, but still, there was some tension within the team because we had to be very precise in every centimeters of chair, of table, of camera frame, and in a very small space. And it was really a good experience. A lot of tension, and then of course there was always this song going on while we were shooting. We didn't take any direct sound because we had this music on, and which we also hear in the film. So something like a never-ending song that we heard during months and months. So we actually dreamt about those songs too, between 2 shooting days. Okay, so there are 2 questions here. Yeah, the question of being in a stressful position, yes and no. Why? Because the Turin horse again was in one single location. Everybody was on the shooting, so they couldn't go anywhere else. So everybody was there. We're just waiting for the right moment to shoot, right moments to rehearse. The stressful part was more when we had to rush because of the light, because of because of the short time we had where the light was perfect, and that was the stressful moments. Otherwise, we had a lot of time to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, do the same movements, like, get to know the movements in our body. Yeah, we still had time during the whole day to correct, so it was actually quite a peaceful atmosphere until the moment where we were actually shooting, and then it was really, everybody was tense. Yeah, so, but it's a good tension, it's like everybody's concentrated at the same time. Of course, when you do shootings that last shots that last 5, 6, 7 minutes, of course you do some mistakes, of course you have to do the take again, and of course the more you do, the more I wouldn't say discouraged you are, but the more you feel you have to do it good, so you don't have so much room for errors. And so that's where the tension comes from, that you there's so much room for errors in 5 minutes or 6 minutes, 7 minutes of shots, that makes it very difficult. And the second part of the question was, knowing the film crew was easier, of course. Yeah, I mean, most of Béla's crew is, the people working with him have been working for ages. They've been working since a lot of them were already working on Schattentango, that film made in the 1993, if I'm not wrong. So there was the prop man already worked on Schattentango. The dolly man, some from the light department. So a lot of them, yeah. So it's like a family. It's like a film family. People know each other very good. And for me, because I worked on the man from London, it was quite good. Yeah, I knew most of them, and made it easier somehow. Okay, so let's say that the creative decisions are really in Béla's world, are really his. Yeah, so he's making the creative decisions. Even, the production part also gives him some hints if this is doable or not. But usually, if it's not doable, it makes it interesting for Béla. Yeah. So if it's not possible, he's going to fight for it, and he's going to try to make it possible. So and I wasn't so much involved in the creation part. It was more of Béla, his wife at the time, Aggie, and maybe some counselors, some people that came to advise him. At some times, it was Krasnaorka Laszlo, not so much anymore on the Turin horse, and Vigmihai, the composer of the music, came also on the set and gave his advice on some creative parts. But mainly it was Béla and Agi, sitting behind the monitor, looking at every single inch of image that they would see, and really looking in depth at rhythm. What was the rhythm of the shot? Did make sense? So they could really be very precise on even a tone of voice. Very, like any director, very very perfectionist. And on the planning part, I would say it was more. I took part in the planning part too, but not. It's not a very complicated planning with Béla. Yeah, you don't have so many shots, so you can put it on one stripe of paper and say, okay, this is day 1, and we have to go to day 23. There's 23 shots, let's say. Yeah, that wasn't the case. It was a bit more, but you've got pretty much the clear idea where you start from, where you go. It's not 1,000 shots that you have to shoot before and then after and make a mix out of it. So the planning was not that difficult. The difficulty was more in question of outside shooting, shooting of the outside, shooting of the inside, somewhere both at the same time. We had to book a helicopter for some days. So if you book the helicopter, you really have to make the shots there because it costs a lot of money. And that was more of the production part, and the shooting schedule itself. We had to change a few stuff, and actually when we had to change it, it was also because of the weather. Yeah, we had a very, very tough weather at some point, with a lot of rain and snow, and then suddenly it was already spring and we couldn't shoot anymore because we didn't have this in between. So we even had to postpone of 1 year this shooting, and which gave us a little bit more time to prepare to, but it was also very tense in terms of money. And as far as that was preparation, and planning and pre-production. Yeah, pre-production and the preparation itself. I went a lot for location scouting, location hunting. So we went around 2 months around Hungary to look a specific. First, we had to look at the specific house that Béla wanted, but the house had to be in the middle of nowhere with no electric cables, with no houses around. So it had to be in the middle of nowhere. Like some of the houses you see in Chattanooga, where you just see the plane in front of you and nothing else. And that was his wish. And we also had to have this kind of how do you call this? This hill. We needed the hill, so to see the horse coming down. In the end, we just gave up. We just gave up looking for the house. We didn't find the house he wanted, so we just wanted to do something very unusual, is to go and look for just a location without nothing in it, you know. So just the place, the hill, and the grass, and nothing around. And Béla just, we found it. We found that day. Béla went on the location, and he said, "Okay, this is perfect. There's a tree up there on the hill. It's perfect. We just need to build the house." And so that's what they did. They built the house from scratch just for the film, and that was already by itself. It was a real adventure. So Béla would go and see how the building of the house was going, and of course there was a lot of problems. We had maybe 3 or 4 days of very heavy rain, which destructed the house, or half of it, and then we couldn't work anymore. Even to get there, we had to get some jeeps and go in the mud, and even the jeep couldn't go there because it was too muddy. So it was really, really, really tough. And Béla had the stones come from different parts of Hungary because he wanted a specific stone, and he wanted the house to be of different ages. So the basement would be with such stones, and the other one would be like this, and there would be dependency. He was already constructing the history of this house even before the film happened, you know. So it was already a film by itself. Yeah. I mean, you probably read in all interviews that Béla gave, or that you see in the press. Yes, the landscape. Yes, the objects. Yes, the animals. Already some characters, and you even know it before shooting the film. And even the film crew is part of it. You know, the film crew is part of the film. It bears it on its shoulders from day one to the last. It is really an adventure. It's really an adventure. Yeah. Very old memories of 15 years ago. It was really, 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 really tough, but it remains somehow. Yeah. Yeah, definitely the most challenging part of the shooting was everything that was involving wind machines, helicopter, horse. Yeah, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. We just had a lot of dust in our noses, in our ears, in our eyes. We couldn't see anymore. and everybody was shouting at the same time. We were afraid of getting hit by a wind machine, or get or get kicked by the horse who couldn't bear it anymore. I mean, we were very careful with the horse, but it was still a lot of tension, and I mean, nothing happened to the horse. But having helicopters and a wind machine is not part of the regular life of a horse. So it was really tough, and we had yeah, exactly, yeah. And then the most difficult part of it is to get a very steady image with this tempest, with this storm around you. You have the steady camera has his camera, and he's got to be like floating on water while it's chaos around him. And I think we managed it pretty well. I mean, yeah, we have to say that the steady cameras, actually, we had 3 of them working on the films, because it was quite wary, but it was a tough job. I think if you want to test your limits as a steady camera, you just go on a Béle shooting. For sure, you'll see what your limits are. And which departments were the easiest, most difficult to work with? We were a team. So there was no difficulty. The only difficulty was just that we had to give the extra mile every time. So we have to give the extra energy all the time. We were really tired. We were really tired at the end of the shooting, even in the middle of the shooting. It was really tiring. It was always doing the same kind of movements, turning this way and that way, and doing them thousands of times with the same music all the time in the ears, and the helicopter in your ears too. It was really nobody made it difficult. Everybody was struggling to get the best image possible. Can't remember of anything. I mean, we were also working with some local people who were giving us a hand. So people who were working in the village not far from it, and they were also very very helpful. They did everything they could, to help us and get the most perfect image we could get. Okay. It is indeed a very special film. It is a very special film. I would say that even Béle itself on the shooting set, the Turin horse is maybe something that's the closest to Tango in the spirit, but somehow, yeah, without the hope that you have in Tango, it's like just desperate, and in the sense that there's nothing to wait for anymore, So the characters in Tango were still heading for something, and here you're just heading back because you had maybe the intention of leaving, but you always brought back to your human condition. And yeah, looking back at those days, what it brought me is that if you really need something, maybe you will not get what you wanted at the beginning, but because you wanted it very strongly, you get somewhere. And that's maybe one of the most important learning I got. And there's still this kind of struggle that you need to keep up. I think I forgot the first part of the question. Yes, it's a masterpiece of modern cinema, maybe. It's also very different from my side to talk about this film as a film. I mean, I'm talking to you about this film as a shooting. When you've been on the making side, it's you look at the film, but you, in one part of your head, you're still thinking of, okay, you see the frame, but you see everything that's on the sides of the frame. So I still, when I see the image, I know there was a helicopter here, and there was somebody blowing the wind here, and that somebody was taking sound here, etc. Yeah. So if for me the masterpiece of Béla is still Tango, because I lived it as a spectator and didn't do it. So it's hard for me to answer this question somehow. It's maybe my first love also, so Tango will still be the one that you cannot get better. But yeah, definitely it is something very big. It's something very strong. It delivers a very strong message, and just think of the situation now. Yeah, with the corona crisis, sounds like something very apocalyptic, and everybody is closed down. It's in its own home, almost like all of those characters in their farm. They cannot go anywhere. They have to stay here. Maybe you can look at that film that way. I mean, it will still talk to you at some point. It's something that is not linked to a certain time. It's atemporal, so it will last. It will remain as a film that you can see anytime. It's so far away from a certain time. Yeah, it talks to us all the time. I think that's it. Thanks for if you have any questions, you can still ask. But yeah, thank you very much for being with me, and I hope everybody's going to be okay. Bye.